Thank you to everybody here for being here this morning. My name is Amir Stark, and I'm running to be the next judge of the Court of Common Pleas here in Bucks County. I'm not the endorsed candidate. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm also not a politician. I've never been involved in politics. I don't think our judges should be politicians. I'll talk more about that in a minute too. What I want to start with is telling you about my life experience, because a person's individual life experience is the lens through which they see the world, and that's how we make our decisions. So I started off with my American dream at the age of 6. I came to this country from Israel with my family, and I watched my family work really, really hard to achieve the American dream, which I constantly hear on these left-wing news outlets doesn't exist anymore, never existed, or that we live in some horrible country. And I'm living proof that that is absolute nonsense.
Okay.
I watched my family. I watched my family work hard to achieve what we were given when we came to this country was opportunity. My family worked hard, and that's what set my work ethic. I knew that to achieve what needs to be done, you have to work hard. Anything worth doing is hard to achieve. Nothing is easy, so you work hard. I became a lawyer. I started working right out of law school at a class action firm, what they called a boutique class action firm. They represented plaintiffs in securities class actions and some antitrust work. It didn't appeal to me. Very quickly, in a matter of months, I realized that wasn't the work that I wanted to do. I feel a need to connect with the people who I represent. And when you are a class action attorney, although you are representing classes of individuals, you are not representing any one individual. And that's hard for somebody who wants to have a connection with people. So I started my own law firm, and I started representing small businesses, mom and pop's businesses. I had an in to the Israeli community, and there's a lot of Israeli businessmen here in Philadelphia, and they wanted my help because small businesses get hammered by these liberal policies, especially in a city like Philadelphia.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I spent the next decade doing that kind of work. As I was doing that kind of work, I started volunteering my time in protection from abuse court in Bucks County. The way that it started is a long story in and of itself. It was a chance meeting with the lead attorney for legal aid of Southeast Pennsylvania. But I started volunteering my time. Every Wednesday here in Bucks County, the court holds protection from abuse court, where victims of domestic abuse and violence come to seek an order of protection from the court to keep their abuser away from them. This is a very, very important thing that we do. And it's run almost entirely by volunteers, as I came to learn. So I started volunteering. This is while I was still doing the commercial litigation work, but it opened my eyes to something that's going on here in this county, is that we have some real problems. And it also opened my eyes to the fact that that these problems are litigated and adjudicated oftentimes in our family courts. Now, over the years, I had done a few family law cases, not much. Protection from abuse happens in the family division of our court. And 2 years ago, this past March, I dedicated myself to doing nothing but family law. The connection to the people is amazing. You take a person by the hand and you walk them into a courtroom, and on your way in, they're trembling. And you say to them, I'm going to protect you today. I'm going to do what I do, and I do it well. And this court is going to keep you safe, or your children safe, or your parents safe. And that's what I do. That's what I've dedicated my career to doing. And experience matters. When we look at who we want to be a judge, experience really matters, in particular because here in our Court of Common Pleas of Bucks County, every new judge starts their judgeship as a family law judge. And in fact, what inspired me to run for this position is the soon-to-be retiring Alan Rubenstein, for whose seat we are competing now. Now, I think that Alan Rubenstein is a great man. He was a 3-time district attorney here in Bucks County, spent 21 years on the bench. He's being forced into retirement due to his age, which I think is a shame, because he's sharp as all get out, and he's a great person and a great judge. And I've appeared in front of him many dozens of times. I've seen how the work that he does affects people, and I realize that when he steps off the bench, we're going to have a tremendous loss. So I thought to myself, well, I want to continue this legacy of a great conservative judge. What does it mean to be a conservative judge? I already told you that I don't think judges should necessarily be politicians, and I'm certainly no politician. In fact, I only learned about the endorsement process here within the party in the last 4 months or so since I decided to announce my run. I went and introduced myself to the leadership of our county GOP, and they explained the endorsement process to me and a few other realities. And I've been learning on the job, so to speak, as a candidate of what it means to run for political office. Here in Pennsylvania, judges have to run through a political process. But once a judge takes the bench, they're expected to be apolitical, which is good. So when I talk about conservative versus liberal judicial ideology, I'm not talking about Republican versus Democrat. Republican versus Democrat is politics. Conservative versus liberal is ideology. Yeah. A conservative judicial ideology is one that's rooted in conservative personal values and conservative judicial values. Never legislating from the bench, as my colleague Mr. Kaur has mentioned. A judge should never make the law. A judge interprets the law. We have a legislative body in the state, and we have a judicial body. They run in their own lanes, and there's a double yellow line in the middle. It should never be crossed. Okay? Thank you. So here I come to you asking for your vote. I suppose I'm a little bit young. I'm 46 years old. I know there's an esteemed colleague of ours on the bar here on the bench who became judge at about 34 years old? 35 years old. So I wouldn't be breaking any records here like Miss Christian. I'm 46 years old and I'm a dedicated conservative. And judges judges serve a 10-year term, and at the end of a 10-year term, they're able to run for retention. It's not a re-election. And most judges do get retained. So what I'm telling you is this: if you support me and if you get me on the bench, I promise to you that I will be a reliable conservative jurist for the next almost 30 years. Amen. And we're in a county that is flipping around. We heard the numbers. Mr. Warren correctly cited the numbers. We are outnumbered by about 10,000 voters at this time. To have 30 years of a judge who supports the First Amendment, who supports the Second Amendment. I'm personally a gun owner, and I understand the Second Amendment because it applies to me, okay, and to my family. A judge who supports the rule of law and applying the law to the facts, and then having the integrity to articulate your decision. That's a key step in the process. Tell the litigants why you did what you did as a judge. And what that does is it promotes the notion of justice. Not everybody walks out a winner, but nobody walks out feeling like this was not justice or justice wasn't done. That's very important to me. Folks, I'd really like to answer any questions you have. I'll stick around as long as necessary. Thank you for your time, and God bless you.